Yep. Hello everyone. Is my voice audible, guys? Okay. So in last class, we have understood about what is DOM, guys. And we have understood what is DOM manipulation. Then we discussed about DOM tree, how DOM tree is created in diagrammatic way. And I have explained you in the object format also, how it is represented. And then we have discussed about why we require DOM manipulation, or why JavaScript is creating, why browser is creating DOM tree. That also we have discussed. And we have discussed one example. We have discussed one example. This is what we have covered in the last class. In today's session, let's understand how to access DOM elements after creating the DOM elements by browser. Once DOM tree is created, then how to access those DOM elements. How to access the DOM elements. Now, to access the DOM elements, browser is providing us predefined object and functions. To access DOM elements, browser is providing us predefined objects and functions. Objects and functions. Now we can use these objects and functions to access our DOM elements. Now, what is that object and function? The predefined object is document. That object name is document. And in this document object, there are so many functions using which we can access our DOM elements. There are so many functions, guys. Not one function, there are multiple functions. Now we need to understand what are those multiple functions, how to use those multiple functions to access any DOM element. Okay, so let's see one example. Let's suppose I am creating one HTML document here. So I am saying here task1.html. I have created HTML document. In this, I am trying to add my HTML code. So the first line is doc type, then HTML tag, head tag, and then body tag. And here I will add title tag. And I will just add here title as a task1. And inside the body, I am taking one div first. Inside that div, I am adding one h2. And here simply I will say DOM manipulation. And then I want one simple button. I will say change style. In last example, we have seen how to change the content. In this example, we will see how to change the style of this element. Okay, style of this element means whenever this element is loaded in your browser, you will see the content of the color of the content is in the black. I want to change that color. So when I load this document in my browser, let me save my document and let me load it. You will see that here your title is displayed and one button is displayed. Right now the color of the content is in the black. Now my requirement is if I click on this button, this content color should change to red. The moment I click on this button, I want this color should change to red. It means whenever you click on this button, you want to perform some operation. You want to perform some action. So for that, first let's create one JavaScript function. So inside this head section, let's add one script tag. Inside that, let's create one JavaScript function. I will say change styles. Some function name I am giving. You can give whatever name you want to give for your function. Now this function we want to call whenever user clicks on this button. For that, we will add onClick attribute. And to this onClick attribute, we will add this function call as a value. Now, whenever user will click on this button, this function will be called. Now, in this function, we have to write some logic. What logic? To change the style of this element. It means we need to perform some DOM manipulation. On this element. So if you want to perform DOM manipulation on this element, the first step is get the DOM element of that H2. The first step should be get the DOM element of the H2. We have to get the DOM element of the H2. What is the meaning of that? Let's try to understand once again. Whenever this page I am loading in my browser, whenever this document I am loading in my browser, internally browser will create one DOM tree. DOM tree will start with document object. What is the meaning of creating DOM tree? For every HTML element, one object will be created. And that object we call as a DOM element. And all those objects are arranged in a sequence, in a tree kind of structure. That structure we document object. Under document, it will add HTML. Under HTML, it will add head and body. Here it will add your head and then body. Right now, let's focus only on body part. Under body, it will add one div. Under div, it will add two elements, that is H2 and button. H2 is added and one button is added. Now inside this H2, we have a content. And the content name is something called DOM manipulation. Our requirement is whenever user will click on this button, we want to change this content color to red. It means we have to perform the action on this DOM element. So now using JavaScript language, what we need to do? First, we need to get the access of the H2 DOM element. First, get access of h2 DOM element. h2 DOM element. We need this h2. So once you get the h2 DOM element access, then h2 DOM element looks like this. Your h2 DOM element look like this. It is an object. Like this, it will be one object. In this object, there is one property called style. Whose value is one more object. And in this style object, there are all the CSS properties. Whatever CSS properties we have, all the CSS properties are here. So one of the property is color, whose value by default is a black. Now I want to change this value from black to red. If I'm able to change this value from black to red, then my content color will change. Now, how to access this value? How to modify this value to make it red? For that, we have to go with our object dot notation. We can say h2 DOM element dot. First, we have to access this object style. So whenever you say h2 DOM element dot style, you will get the access of this object. In that object, we want this black. So again, dot color. Then you will get the access of this property. Now what you want to do with this property? I want to update this value. So equals to red. That's it. If you write this line of the code, your content color will change to red. But to write this line, first we need to get the DOM element. First, we need to get the access of DOM element. Now, how to get the access of DOM element? In last class, already we have seen with the query selector. Let's go with the same approach. So let's go to our code. Here first, let's write our code here. What we have to do? We have to access DOM document object directly because it is a predefined object. Directly you can access. Inside this object, there is a function called get element by ID or query selector. Let's go with query selector. There is one property called query selector. Now to this query selector, pass your tag name. That's it. Will return you the h2 DOM element. Now inside this h2 DOM element, now second step is what you have to do, change the style. How to change the style? Now inside this h2 DOM element, there is one property called style. Inside this style, there is a property called color and whose value we want to make red. So inside the h2 DOM element, there is a style property. Inside the style property, there is a color property whose value we want to change to red. That's it. Now, if you go back here, if you refresh and if you click on this, now you will see that your content color got changed to red. From black, it is changing to red. If I refresh, again back to black. If I click on this, red. Again back to red. So here I will add button name as a red. If I go back here, again refresh, now button name is red. If I click on this button, I got red. In the same way, I might have one more button called black. I will add here one more button called black. Now my requirement is if I click on this black button, again I want to change my content back to black. If I click on red, it is red. If I click on black, I want again back black. Again, if I click on red, again red. If I click on black, black. So how to do? For that, let's create one more function. function change to black. Change to black. Now here also same case. First, take the get the access of DOM element, and then using this DOM element, access the style color equals to black. Now this time you have to add the color name as a black. Now we have to call this function here, change to black. That's it. If you want, you can handle in one function also using your selection statements. But right now I'm trying to keep it simple. Now go back here, refresh it. Now if I click on red, it's red. If I click on black, black. Red, black. Like this, you can add so many colors. Not only color, you can add so many things. I can add background color also. So for this, I can add h2 DOM element dot style dot background color. There is a property called background color. I will add it black. And let me add some padding also. h2 DOM element dot style dot padding equals to 20 pixel I will add. Now same properties I will copy and I will add here as well. Now here background color I will make it red, and padding let me keep 20 pixel only. Now see here, if I refresh, if I click on red, I got like this. If I click on black, I got like this. However you want, you can add your styles. Whatever styles you want, you can add. Now see, we are getting the styles on demand. Right now, we don't have any styles, but if I click on the button, then only I am getting some styles. If I click on this button, then only I am getting on some styles. This is called getting the styles on demand. Getting the styles on demand means when you are demanding, then only you are getting that style. If you are clicking the buttons, then only you are getting this style. So on demand, if you are getting the styles, then it is called dynamic styles. It is called dynamic styles. On demand, if you are able to change your user interface, it is called dynamic user interface. And dynamic user interface is possible only with a language called JavaScript. We can create dynamic user interface with only one language, that is JavaScript. Understood, guys, this code? Let me know on the chat whether you have understood or if you have any doubts. Okay. Now I told you that h2 DOM element is an object. Just now I have told you h2 DOM element is an object. And in that object, right now we know two properties. Yesterday, we came to know a property called inner text, whose value was the content that we add in between opening and closing tag. And today we have understood one more property called style, whose value is one object. Whose value is one object. Like this, how many properties are present in this object? How many properties are present? Right now we know two properties. That is your inner text and style. Like this, how many properties are present in this object? Only two properties, or there are so many properties? In this object, inside this h2 DOM element object, h2 DOM element is one object, right? Technically, it is object. Object contains properties. Right now, we know two properties, that is inner text and style. Using inner text, we can change content. Using style, we can change styles. Now, inside this style object also, right now, we know three properties. We have color, we have background color, we have padding. Like this, how many properties are there in the style object also? Only 3 or there are so many? Actually, there are so many properties. Inside this h2 DOM element, apart from inner text and style, there are so many properties. Inside this style object itself, there are so many properties. Then how to identify or how to know how many properties are present in our DOM element? For that, we can write one code. We can use for loop with in operator. We can use for loop with in operator. Now using this for loop with in operator, you can identify how many properties are present in your DOM elements. Using for loop with in operator, you can find out how many properties are present in that object. And what are the key names of those objects? What are the values assigned to those objects? Everything you can find. Let me show you how to do that. So I will go to another file. I will say just here for -in .html. Same code I will write, same code as it is I will write, and I will paste here. Just to keep the things simple, I will remove one button. I will just say print properties of h2 DOM. I will say print properties of h2 DOM. Let me go back here. Let me remove this function first. I have only one function, that is function change styles. Now here, instead of change styles, let's change our function name to print properties. Now here also I will change it to print properties. So this second part I will remove. Now same thing. If I just load this, it looks like this. Print properties of h2 DOM. Now my requirement is, if I click on this button, I want to print all the properties of h2 DOM element. That is my requirement. If I click on this button, I want to call this function, and in this function, I want to write the code to print all the properties of h2 DOM element in my console. So if you want to print all the properties of h2 DOM element, first we have to get access of h2 DOM element. Already we got it. Now let's print all the properties of h2 DOM element. How to print all the properties of h2 DOM element? For that, we have to use this one, for loop with in operator. How to use for loop with in operator? I think you guys are aware of that. Just we have to use here for loop like this. Start with for loop, for keyword, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, open curly brace, close curly brace. Then inside this parenthesis, declare one variable. Like var x. Declare one variable, then use in operator, and then your object name. What is the object name? h2 DOM element, right? Just pass that h2 DOM element. Now what this for loop will do, it will go to this h2 DOM element. It will pick the first property key name, and it will store that key name here. And then this block will be executed. So whenever this block is executed, I just want to print that key name. So here, instead of x, let's take variable name as a key. Now console.log of key. Now if I go back to my browser, let's inspect it. Open our console. Now right now, if you see, there is nothing in the console. The moment I click on this button, you will see so many things in this console. Now all these are the properties of h2 DOM element, guys. If you have a look on this, now see how many properties we have. Now, if you start learning each and every property, then we have to finish. We have to spend almost 6 months just to learn H2 DOM element. That many properties are present in this H2 DOM elements. So it is starting with align, title, lang, translate. All these are the property key names, guys. Just property key names. This many properties are present. Now here we have used query selector, right? Let's find our query selector. If you say Control F, you can add here query selector. See, we got here this query selector. So query selector is one of the property of your H2 DOM element. Here also you have that query selector. In H2 DOM element also you have query selector. We can find our inner text also. See, we have here inner text also. We have style also. Here we have style also. Now inside style is also having one object. I want to know how many properties are present in style object. In that case, what we have to do, just here we have to write h2 DOM element dot style. Now it will print all the properties of style object. Go back here. Let me clear this. Let me click on this. Now see, all these are the properties of style object. So I think it is not printing. Let me refresh. Let me click on this now. Yeah, now these are the properties of style object. Now see, or inside this style object, how many properties are there? Now we have used this background color. We have background image, background origin, background position, background repeat, background size, border, border block color. Like this, all the CSS properties are there here. Now, if you want to find out your color property, just press on Ctrl plus F, and here you will get one search box, and here you search color. Now see, here you will get all the color properties. In the alphabetical order they have arranged. So here we have our color property. I want to search padding. See, here we got padding property. All these properties are present inside this object, guys. Style object, inside the style object. This many properties are present in the style object. This many properties are present in the style object. Now, if you want to find how many properties are present in this H2 DOM element, in that case, what we need to do, just here we have to remove this dot style. And if you go back to the browser, if you refresh and click on this button, now it will print all those. This many properties are present in H2 DOM element. Now, are you guys understanding how big this DOM concept is? This is just a case of H2, guys. Like this, in our HTML, how many elements we have? We have paragraph, we have table, we have forms, we have iframe, we have image. Like this, there are so many elements. In every element, this many properties will be present. So for every HTML element, one DOM element will be created. In every DOM element, you will find this many properties. Now you can finish your graduation in the DOM concept. Yeah, guys. Is my voice audible? Okay. So like this, if you want to find the properties in document object, you can find that as well. So here you can add document object. Now it will print the properties of all the document object. These are the properties of document object. So if you refresh, click on this, it will print the properties of document object. So if you see, so many properties are present in the document object also. So like this. So DOM is so vast subject, guys. DOM is so vast subject. DOM is so vast subject. It contains thousands of properties. Thousands of properties. Now, as a human, it is not possible for us to remember all those properties. As a human, it is not possible to remember so many properties. Remember so many properties. As a human, it is not possible. It is not possible to remember so many properties. That is the reason as a developer, we cannot master DOM. As a developer, we cannot master DOM. Because there are so many properties in the DOM. As a human, how much you can remember? How many properties you can remember? And every day they are updating the DOMs. Every day that new developers are updating the DOM. So as a developer, it is not possible to master the DOM. You cannot master the DOM. So DOM is so vast subject. There are so many properties, so many concepts in the DOM. Even if you have 15, 20 years experience in the JavaScript, still you cannot master the DOM. Because so many properties are there. Now, as a human, it is not possible for us. We cannot master it. So when you cannot master the DOM, then you cannot handle it properly. When you don't know something about, then you cannot master it. So as a dev, we cannot master the DOM. When you cannot master the DOM, then you cannot handle the DOM properly. It is not possible to handle the DOM efficiently. You cannot handle the DOM efficiently. And if you don't handle the DOM efficiently, it will affect the performance. It will affect the performance of the application. This is the biggest problem if you directly work with DOM. Because as a human, you cannot master the DOM. And if you cannot master the DOM, you cannot handle it properly. And when you cannot handle it properly, it will affect the performance of your application if you are doing a lot of DOM manipulation. So for this reason only, your frameworks and libraries came into picture. Your frameworks and library came into picture. So now as a dev, you cannot master DOM. Now as a dev, we cannot master DOM. Dev cannot master DOM. But somehow we have to handle this DOM. What to do? This is where React, Angular, Vue came into picture. Let's talk in the terms of React. Now, what React is saying? as a developer, you tell me, React is saying, as a developer, you tell me how your DOM should get manipulated, how your DOM should get modified. So as a developer, now we are going to tell to React how our DOM should get modified. React will take care of modifying the DOM. Because directly, if you are modifying the DOM, then you cannot master it. When you cannot master it, you cannot handle it efficiently. So directly, if a developer is handling the DOM, then he cannot handle efficiently. That is the reason we are going with another approach. What is that approach? As a developer, we will tell to React how our DOM should get modified. Now, React knows well about the DOM. React mastered the DOM. So React knows the best approach to modify the DOM. And React knows each and everything about the DOM. That is the reason React is more efficient to handle the DOM. So we will tell to React how to modify the DOM. React will modify that DOM. React will follow the best approach as per our requirement to modify the DOM. Now you can replace React with Angular. You can replace React with Vue.js. This is how our work got released. Our burden got released. So now what developer has to do, he has to master React. React already mastered DOM. So React will take care of DOM. Even if you want to change any content in your DOM, you have to tell to React, hey React, change the content of H2. React will change it. If you want to change the style of any content, tell to React, hey React, this element style I want to change. React will change it. It means DOM concept is completely abstracted from us. DOM concept is completely abstracted from us if you are using React. So if you are using React, directly you will not work with DOM. You will not use even one concept of DOM. You will just tell to React, hey React, I want like this, I want like that. React will take care of that. So React will act like an assistant for you. React is going to act as an assistant for you. Assistant for you. Whatever you will say, React will do that. Now this made the development very easy. This approach made development very easy. Now here development was little complex. Why? Because in DOM, there are so many properties. Now you cannot master. So for particular requirement, now you are not sure which is the best approach or which is the best function or which is the best property to use. So development was little complex. Because all the developers are not that great who knows the DOM and efficiently they can handle. And frankly, if I say there is no developer in the world who mastered the DOM, there is no developer in the world. Because just you have seen in just H2 how many properties are there. Again, inside the H2 there is a style whose value is also one object. In that object also there are so many. Like that in H2 itself there are so many properties whose values are object. And in each object there are so many properties. This is the reason this React came into picture. So when you start learning React, when you start learning Angular, you will understand all these things. Practically you will do. So in React, you will just learn how to give the instruction to React. This part you will learn. React will take care of that part. React will take care of next part. So all the concepts of React you will learn just to instruct React what you want to do. Internally, React will take care of everything by following the best approaches. Okay. Are you guys understanding? what is DOM and what is the problem with DOM, guys, now? So DOM contains lot of properties which is not possible for a human or a developer to master. That is the reason we are going towards React. Now, if you want to do any kind of DOM manipulation, we will tell to React, hey React, I want my DOM should be modified in this way. Now React will take care of modifying it. React will take the best approaches. It follows the best ways to modify your DOM as per your requirement. Same thing, you can replace React with Angular also. You can replace Angular with Vue.js also. This is how frameworks and libraries came into picture. Okay. Now let's learn a little bit more about our DOM. Now we know how to access DOM element using document.query selector. Now there is one more function called document.getElementById. There is one more function called document.getElementById. So let's see how to use this function to access any DOM element. So for that, let me take one more file. Here I will say task2.html. Let me close this. I am starting with doc type, HTML tag, head section, and body section. Now inside this, I am taking one image. I will assign some width to it. I will assign some height to it. Now let me display one image here. So I will try to take some image from the internet. I will search for male professional pictures. So I got here some image. So right click, copy the image address, go back here, paste here. Now if you see, I have created one simple document. In that body directly I have added image element. Now if I load this document in my browser, you will see one image. Now this width looks more. Let's decrease the width to 300. Let's refresh. You got like this. Now my requirement is, if I keep my cursor on this image, if I keep my mouse, this cursor on this image, I want this image should change to female image. I want current male image should change to female image. When it should change to female image, if I keep my cursor. The moment I remove my cursor, again it should get back to male image. It should get back to male image. Whenever I keep my cursor on this image, I want this image should change to female image. If I remove my cursor, again it should change back to male image. How to do? For that, we are going to use one attribute called on mouse enter. It means whenever we keep our mouse on this element, I want to call one function. I will say change to female. I will call one function called change to female. Now I don't have this function, so let me define this function. So inside the head section, I will take one script tag. I will create one function. I will add this. Now, whenever I keep my mouse, whenever I enter my mouse, this is called mouse enter. Whenever I enter my mouse on this image, this function will be called. Now, whenever this function is called, I want to change the image of this element. How to change? For that, we have to replace new image link to this src attribute. How to do that? For that, first we have to get the access of image DOM element. First, we have to get the access of image DOM element. How to get the access of image DOM element? One way is document.querySelector. That is one way. Another way is you can assign one ID to it. You can assign one ID to it. I will say image. Now using this ID value, we can access the DOM element of this image. How to access? For that, we have to say document dot get element by ID. Get element by ID of whose whose DOM element we want image. So that image ID value you have to pass. So what is the ID value? It's an image. As it is, we have to pass. Now what this document.get element by ID will return? It will return the DOM element of that image. So let's hold that in one variable image DOM element. So here I will add img. Now inside this image DOM element, now image DOM element is also one object. It is also one object. In this object, there is a property called src, whose value by default is your image URL, that mail image URL. This is how it will be. Now, what is our requirement? We want to modify this value. This value we have to modify. How to modify? So here also we have to write same code. Image DOM element dot src equals to new URL. New URL we have to add. That's it. We have to add the new URL. Let's try here. Now here in next line, image DOM element dot src equals to new URL. Now let's get new URL. I will search for female professional picture. So let's assume that this image I want to show on the screen. So right click, copy image link, go back here, paste here. That's it. Now see, the moment I go back here, if I refresh, if I keep, I got female image. Now if I remove, I should get back male image. So how to get back male image? For that, we have to add one more attribute, on mouse leave. Whenever you leave the mouse, I want to call one more function. Change to male. Change to male. So on mouse leave, whenever you remove your cursor, whenever you remove your mouse from that image, then this function will be called. So again, the same story. I will just create one function change to male. Same code I have to write. Same code I have to write. I will pass here. And here, instead of female image, I will add that male image. So already we have that male image URL here. So we can get from here, we can copy and we can paste here. We can paste here. So function 1, function 2. If you see, we have same code. If you want, you can handle all this in one code also, in one function also. So go back here, refresh. Now, if I click female, if I come back, male. Here, female, male. This is what we call as a interactivity. The moment I keep my cursor, it is female. If I remove, it's a male. You can do so many things. Whatever you want, you can add. If you want, you can add one border also for this image element. Already you have image DOM element. So image DOM element dot style dot border, you can say, equals to 2 pixel solid green, I will say. Let's try that border will be added or not. See, border is added. Now let me just increase the width. Let me say 10 pixel like this. If I remove, I want another border color. So like this, we can add here also. This time I want red, but style I want dotted. Like this, you can add whatever styles you want. Refresh like this. You can add whatever you want. So what are the events actually we are using here? On mouse enter, on mouse leave. Right now, if you don't know the concept of events, just say here this as an attribute. Just think like an attribute. On mouse enter is one attribute, on mouse leave is another attribute. To those attributes, we are adding function calls. And in those function calls, we are managing the code. We are managing the code. If you want, you can create only one function and you can handle all those things. Little bit advanced level technique you have to write. So right now, we will not focus on that. We will try to focus on how to get our DOM element access. Now, this is the way to get DOM element access using ID value, Now, what is the difference between these two functions? Now, using query selector, you can pass tag name, you can pass ID value, you can pass class name also. You can pass class name also for query selector. But for get element by ID, you have to pass only ID. You have to pass only ID. In this parenthesis, you have to pass only ID. But here, you can pass tag name, you can pass ID value, you can pass class name also. So if I go back here, suppose here for image, I don't want to use get element by ID. I can use query selector. You can pass like this tag name, that is img. Or else what you can do inside this query selector, I can pass ID value also. What is the ID value? Image. This image we should not pass directly. So if you are passing ID value, then you have to start with hash and then your ID value. So inside the query selector, if you are passing tag name, directly you can pass the tag name, img. But if you are passing ID value, then start with hash, then ID value. Suppose your image element have a class attribute. Class equals to, I will say here, something like C1. If you have a class attribute, then we can use here class also. But for that, we have to start with dot C1. So dot indicates we are passing class name. Hash indicates we are passing ID value. If you are not using any symbol, it means it is a tag name. It is a tag. So query selector can take ID value, class name, and even your tag name as an argument. But get element by ID, it will just take ID value only. ID value only. And here no need to use any hash because we are passing by default ID value only. So these are the two ways to get the access of your DOM elements. To get the access of your DOM elements. Understood, guys, up to here? So there are some few more ways. Document dot get elements by tag name, document dot get elements by class name, document dot query selector all. Like this, there are some more functions. Those functions we will try to understand in tomorrow's session. And tomorrow we will try to create our own DOM element also. That part also we will study. Okay. Yeah. So I will stop, guys, today's session here itself. Remaining things we will discuss in tomorrow's session. Yeah. If you have any doubts, let me know. Same guys, in case of Angular also same. React or Angular, same. In case of Angular also, you will tell to Angular how your DOM should be manipulated. Internally, Angular will take care of manipulating the DOM. Yeah, script tag you can put in the body also. H2 tag you can add in the style tag also. Okay, any tag you can add anywhere, but HTML provided us some rules to use those tags. In that rule, we have to follow those rules and we have to use those tags. Even if you write your H2 tag inside the head section, or it will work. Even if you write script tag inside the body section, it will work. If you want, you guys can give a try. Okay, guys, let's meet tomorrow at same time. Yeah, guys, you can learn React and Angular parallelly. There is no problem. See, learning will not have any kind of problem. The more you learn, the more opportunities will open for you. And as a software developer, as a software engineer, you should be always open to learn the things. Today you are learning React, Angular. Tomorrow, who knows, another technology might be trending. So that you might have to learn. Or else maybe you are working in a company, you got a project, and in that project, they want different technologies. Now you have to learn and you have to work. So we have to be open with any technology. And the more you learn, the more knowledge you will get, more opportunities will open for you. So if you are capable of learning parallelly, learn it. If you think I am not that much capable, then just learn one by one.